The Mars Volta, prog Latin experimental rock group from El Paso, Texas. They've got a beautiful body of work, and I've taken it upon myself to order their 8 releases from worst to best. I'll be including each album's ranking on 3 different websites just to provide some context and see if I'm culturally out of touch. Please follow along and passionately share your opinion on my choices down in the comments below. In 8th place we have their most recent release, Que Dios te maldiga mi corazón, released in 2023. This album is an acoustic version of their self-titled album they released a year prior, so the same songs and track listing, just acoustic with some compositional changes here and there. I wasn't really a big fan, surprise surprise, as I've put it bottom of the list. To make an acoustic version of an album that wasn't too well received in the first place just seems a bit strange, like people weren't that buzzed about the original album, so why make an acoustic one? In 7th place we have the Mars Volta, released in 2022. The band's first album after a 10-year gap. I remember hearing the news about them reforming and working on new material, and I was very excited. But that excitement soon turned to flat disappointment. The Mars Volta was a lot more Latin, arty and poppy than their past releases. It's clear that the group, helmed by Omar Rodríguez-López and Cedric Bixler-Zavala, made a conscious choice to revamp their sound. It's a bold choice and I respect their attempts to evolve rather than just stagnate, but it sounded like a different band to me. The music wasn't exciting or stimulating or even interesting. 6th place, Noctourniquet. At this point it might just seem like I'm working my way back through their discography, but I promise that's not the case. The context around this release is kind of similar to that of the Mars Volta in that there was a large gap of 4 years before their previous album. There were notable personnel changes, with D'Anthony Parks coming in on drums being perhaps the most notable, and the band's sound changed a lot. The album was much more electronic, psychedelic and spacey than other releases. I remember being quite surprised by the drastic shift in style, and with time I grew to quite like the album, which has some solid cuts on it like Moloch Walker and In Absentia. For me, Octahedron is the Mars Volta's 5th best release. I see it as the final TMV prog rock album because after this release the band stopped collaborations with John Frusciante. It was their final record with monster drummer Thomas Pridgeon, who was let go, and the last record with keyboardist Isaiah Ike Owens, who sadly passed away 3 years after the album released. It's proggy and psyche with a few great cuts like Cotopaxi and Luciforms. I think it just lacks consistency and a little edge. There's actually a Mars Volta release that no one seems to be aware of. I think it's some of their best work. It's called Subscribe to Offbeat. You can listen to it by just clicking subscribe down below. Number 4, Amputechture, released in 2006. Fantastic record, I think the first on the list that has great quality from track to track. It's a well-balanced concoction of prog rock, art and experimental rock with a light peppering of fusion too. Day of the Baphomet and Tetragrammaton are ultra-long prog odysseys that are so much fun to listen to, thanks to Rodríguez-López's razor-sharp compositions. 2005's Francis the Mute takes the bronze medal at number 3, the band's second release, and they're in peak form at this point. I think with the huge acclaim they received from their debut album, it was always going to be difficult to follow it up, but Francis the Mute was a great continuation of the work. It's varied, well produced and made up of stellar cuts. You have Frusciante's shredding solos on La Via Cares, the subdued The Widow being one of the popular singles from the album, and the raw prog jams like Tarantism and Cygnus Vismund Cygnus, which wouldn't be out of place in the golden era of prog in the 1970s. In 2nd we have the Bedlam in Goliath, and I can see this choice sparking the most surprise and derision in the comments because I recognise it's not widely seen as their 2nd best release. The website rankings back that up, but I think the album's role in my life plays a big part here. To me this was a game changer. I was used to straightforward pop radio rock, but with this I was hearing a singer that could hit these crazy high notes, slightly discordant guitar solos and a brutally fast drummer and odd time signatures. There are a lot of stories about how the recording process of the album was plagued by a variety of issues, which the band put down to their frequent interaction with a Ouija board. Bixler-Zavala needed surgery, their drummer quit mid-tour, tracks would periodically disappear from hard drives, their studio flooded, so despite the otherworldly mayhem, the group were able to release a robust, romping album. In 1st place, the best Mars Volta album, we have De-Loused in the Comatorium, their debut release and an obvious choice I think. It's just such a seminal album for so many different reasons. It's how they entered the music scene as a band in 2003 with their unique blend of Latin, jazz and prog rock. They smartly utilized the experience and expertise of various Red Hot Chili Peppers members like Flea, who played bass on almost all the album, Frusciante, who contributed to the album, and even famed producer Rick Rubin was involved. On the topic of personnel, the album is seen by many as the John Theodore album. Just check the comment section on the video essay I did on him in the top right hand corner to see what I mean. It was a critical and commercial success, and I'd highly recommend it to any prog fans that haven't already checked it out. So there you have it. Thanks for bearing with me today. If you can't tell, I am suffering with a cold, but I wanted to get this video out. Do let me know down below how this ranking aligns with your own, and if there are any other bands you'd like me to cover in this worst to best segment, just let me know. Thank you.